Now, what's very interesting is that the U.S. inflation, it has now fallen to 2.9%. It's lower than expectations, which, of course, we knew that this was going to happen. This is now allowing the Fed to say, hey, the economy looks good. Biden now can say the economy looks good. Now, think about it. They're trying to separate Kamala from this, but now you have the Fed and you have Biden saying the economy looks good. So this is going to look kind of strange with Kamala, isn't it? So this is going to be kind of hard for them to separate themselves from all of this. But the Kobesi letter on X put this out and said, is the market forecasting a recession? Interest rates futures are now pricing in 8 Fed rate cuts over the next 12 months, the most since the 2008 financial crisis. And yes, this is how it's done. They do the first rate cut, and then they quickly do many, many others, and the rate cuts come straight down. We've seen this in the past. This is nothing new, which means we're heading towards a recession. What I do believe is that they're late to the party on this one, and the recession is already here. We're heading into a depression, and no matter what they try to do, it's not going to work because, as we know, when they cut the rates, basically the entire system implodes, but they don't want people to know that the Fed was responsible for all of this. They don't want people to know this. And Unusual Whales put this out and said, an interest rate cut won't fix the housing crisis. Moody's economists say per Fortune. And it won't fix anything because we're already in the recession. But you can see the deep state players, they're already setting up the narrative of why the system is going to be coming down. And we've seen a massive cyber attack, which rocked the central bank of Iran, hit the computer system, paralyzed the entire system. Plus, we saw another cyber attack, and this one hit the city of Columbus, Ohio. The attack has disrupted various city servers, and it appears to have compromised data. Certain people out there were saying that, hey, money was missing from my account. I can't use my cards. I can't use certain machines. So you can see already they're building up the narrative, trying to convince you that, look, the financial institutions can be hit, central banks can be hit. And I do believe they are building this up because, again, when the entire economic system starts to fall apart around October, most likely, they're going to have to shift the narrative and blame it on something else, even though they're the ones who caused it. And I do believe Trump, he's going to use this leverage to his advantage. And I do believe with this leverage, I do believe we can actually get rid of the Federal Reserve. And remember, the Fed, it's not buying gold. And I wonder if a lot of people are wondering why the Fed is not buying gold. See, the Fed has owned no gold since 1934, when the Fed handed over all its legal gold in exchange for gold certificates. This is how the Fed's Board of Governors summarizes the situation. The Gold Reserve Act of 1934 required the Federal Reserve System to transfer ownership of all its gold to the Department of Treasury. In exchange, the Secretary of Treasury issued gold certificates to the Federal Reserve for the amount of gold transferred at the then applicable statutory price for gold held by the Treasury. Gold certificates are denominated in U.S. dollars. Their value is based on the statutory price for gold at the time the certificates are issued. Gold certificates do not give the Federal Reserve any right to redeem these certificates for gold. The statutory price of gold is set by law. It does not fluctuate with the market price of gold, and it has been constant at 42 or 42.2222 per fine troy ounce since 1973. The book value of the gold held by the Treasury is determined using the statutory price. Given that the Fed's gold certificates have essentially no connection to the actual market price of gold, changes in the price of gold have virtually no effect on the value of the Fed's assets. Did they do this on purpose? Absolutely, because what happens if there was a change in price of gold? Well, you would see that the value of the currency is worth absolutely nothing. The only way gold prices would become relevant to the Fed's portfolio would be for Congress to change the statutory price of gold from 42.2222. Now, what happens when we have this crash? What happens when the fingers are pointing to the Fed? What happens when we have a new Congress? What happens when we have a new president? What happens if they say, you know something? We need to revalue gold at the current price. That is going to be very, very interesting. So if the Treasury finds itself truly strapped for cash, the Congress would only have to declare the Fed's gold certificates permanently unredeemable. Or the Treasury could simply buy back the gold certificates at the ridiculously low statutory price. Then there would be no doubt about who owns the gold. Then what could Congress do? They could revalue the gold, which would do what to the Fed? It would destroy the Fed. Because remember, everything is based on 42.2222. What happens when the entire system of gold is revalued at 3,000, 5,000, 10,000? Because actually, if you look at the US debt clock today, it's way above 10,000. Can you imagine what happens then? So can gold actually destroy the Fed? Absolutely.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I tell you, the Federal Reserve, it's on its dime, it's on its last leg right now. I tell you, it's been around for about over 100 years now. It's time for them to go. To be honest with you, it's the third time that the Federal Reserve has been around. The central bank, anyway, has been around. So, anyways, you see, that's what happens. The Federal Reserve is trying to do everything it can to disempower the people of the world, not just the United States of America. And so, of course, we the people, us, you and I, we can definitely we can definitely take the reins away from them by purchasing precious metals. Everything's going to go back into gold and silver anyway. So that's what's going on right now. And so now that you're really finding out that the Federal Reserve never really purchased precious metals, because even if they did, they would kept it to themselves and not necessarily make it valuable for the currency to happen. Just like now other countries are starting to have gold back, currencies and things like that too. And it's time that we start at least get ahead of the game and start collecting precious metals ourselves. So my question is this: what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? But here's one thing we can do, and here's some questions I got to ask: is this? Are you ready to hedge your money towards gold and silver? Go ahead now and contact 7K Metals at 208-314-2587 with promo code GreenGold20. Again, contact 7K Metals at 208-314-2587 with promo code GreenGold20. Contact 7K Metals now and make collecting precious metals your new way of life and take your power back. Healing, it is all that is.